If you don't know how many ships will be docked when you arrive at port, you're pretty much flipping a coin as to whether you'll have the greatest day or an incredibly frustrating one. Booking an excursion when 20,000 or more cruisers are converging, especially into a small port town, can mean the difference between Instagram-worthy photos and where's Waldo. Did you know that there's an easy way to see how many ships will be in port? I'm going to share some info on that, and I'll explain how knowing what the local traffic will be might help you to consider one excursion over another. Ahoy sailors, my name is Rob, and I'm here to tackle Virgin Voyages one topic at a time. Welcome to OVT. So no disclosure needed whatsoever. I am not being sponsored by any of these websites. And once you visit them, I think you're going to wonder how you've made plans in port so blindly in past. There are a couple of great sites like Cruise Mapper and What's in Port, but personally I prefer the simplicity of cruisetimetables.com. First, I'm going to explain to you how to find out what ships are going to be in port when you arrive, and then I'll talk about how this knowledge can be used to help you plan your day. With cruisetimetables.com, click on the Port Schedules tab up in the top right in red, and then search for your port, and then click on that. Finally, click on the date that you arrive. These dates should be in your itinerary from the cruise that you're on, but if not, just Google your specific sailing and it'll be really easy to find. Not only will you see how many ships are in port, but you'll also see the size of the ships and what time they arrive. And let me explain why that's important. Look at this example that I found. On March 4th, 2026, there will be 7 ships in Cozumel, but not just any 7. They include Star of the Seas and MSC's World America, 2 of the largest ships in the world. 11,000 passengers on those ships alone and over 24,000 total passengers that day. There's a bit more to the story though. By 8 a.m., 5 of these ships have arrived. So if you're on one of those ships arriving at 9 o'clock in the morning, you can be sure of a few things. First, a lot of the excursions could be sold out, and those that haven't will likely be overcrowded. Taxis, they may be hard to get for travel into the city, and more importantly, you could experience some significant delays in getting back to port, jeopardizing your embarkation time. Do you already do some searching to find how busy the ports will be? What sites do you use? I'd love to hear about how you use these tools. Leave a comment below. And while we're paused, please take a second to click on the like button. And if you're enjoying my videos, also hit my subscribe button so that you won't miss any of my future episodes. Thank you in advance. So what do you do with all this knowledge? Well, in the case of 24,000 visitors, I'd probably spend a little bit extra money and book an excursion through the cruise line rather than booking with a local excursion company. Normally I book local, but this way you're guaranteed that the ship is going to wait for you if you get back late. No one wants to be that pier runner, and you certainly don't want to have to fly home because you missed that all aboard time. I'd also look at those arrival times. If, for example, my ship was one of the early ones, I would book an excursion right after we arrive to get to the destination before the masses even pull into the port. Sometimes we'll take our time getting off the ship, but in this case, there are huge advantages to being first off. If your ship arrives later, maybe time your excursion for when those early arrivers are finishing up and bussing back, or even moving on to their second spot. If the first departures were at 8 a.m. and you're only pulling into port at 9, maybe an 11 a.m. excursion would work to your advantage and would help you avoid that first wave of cruisers. Regardless, I strongly recommend booking those excursions in advance, maybe even months in advance. I know a lot of people book them at the excursion desk once they're on the ship, or they'll even wait until they get into port. But if you had your heart set on seeing something specific, you should pull the trigger and book it as soon as you're able to. It would be devastating to choose a cruise itinerary specifically because you wanted to see something like the Mayan ruins, just to learn that the excursions are sold out. Finally, if you cruise quite a bit and you've been to that port a few times before, maybe it's worth considering staying on the ship. Empty pool decks and hot tubs, no lines for food, discounts in the spa. These are all perks of staying on board and avoiding the thick crowds, but only if you're totally okay with skipping the port, of course. So now you'll have a clear picture of how busy your port will be and what you can do to ensure that you have a great day regardless of the crowds. Thankfully, there are always a lot of options, and knowing what to expect, it makes it easier to choose the right one. Well, that's port planning, and that's my one virgin topic for today. Do you have any questions? Are there any topics that you'd like to hear about? Leave me a message below. And until next time, ahoy, sailor.